just to show y'all that I was close. Letting y'all know. See, I was the scorer. I had the score. I was off by 1 point. Y'all saw it first, right here. Welcome to Quick Hits. I'm your host, Shannon Smith, aka Podcast Smitty, and I am a fan of sport. I'm not a fan of the college football season ending, but I was a fan of the national championship this past Monday. Great game, hard-hitting action. We got to talk about our runner-ups, the Miami Hurricanes, how they played in this game, my analysis of their play in the national championship. And there's been talks that maybe the U is back. Maybe the U is not. We're going to talk about that here on this episode. And then we have to talk about our national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers, talking about their historic run this year. One of the greatest turnarounds in all of college football went down this year, and the Indiana Hoosiers were that team that did it. Got to talk about their play in the national championship, and then we'll end it on the last segment talking about the impact of Curt Daddy Cignetti, our two-time AP Coach of the Year and the national championship winning coach. Got to talk about his legacy because he told us it's simple. He wins. Google him. And of course, I had to do it, so I did. We're going to talk about that. And you know, there was some talk about maybe he played a little bit of Moneyball to win that national championship. And my thoughts on Moneyball are going to be what will end the segment and end the show for today. You don't want to miss my thoughts on all these things. So without further ado, let's start the show.
Now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's true.
Once again, another Friday. I got you an episode ready to go right now. But before we get into it, make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. Go through the plethora of podcasts that we have in the field of TV and movies, sports and sports entertainment. We have live and solo podcasts on your Major League Baseball, your NBA, all your wrestling, whatever sport that you're into. I'm pretty sure we have a show lined up for it here on Boom Broadcasting for the unbelievably low price of free $99. Yeah, that's right. You get these great shows, these great content creators, all for that low price. Make sure that you join the conversation in the live and the solo podcast. Get into the comments. Give us some likes. We are growing as a channel here in 2026. We have some great reels lined up for you and some of your favorite sports that are coming up. We got a lot of great sports coming up. Major League Baseball is going to be starting spring training real soon. We're getting into the All-Star game for the NBA and the rest of the season going. The trade deadline is going. The NHL trade deadline is going. We got the Winter Olympics up next. We've got some NFL coaching talk going on, the conference championships, the Super Bowl coming up, and the NCAA tournament is also on the horizon as well too. Don't miss all the action here on Boom Broadcasting. Now let's go ahead and get into this episode. Again, a banger of a national championship that we had. The 27-21 win for the Indiana Hoosiers went down this past Monday. We'll go ahead and start the show by giving out a golf clap here. Going to give a golf clap to the Miami Hurricanes coming up on the short end of the stick of this national championship game. But of course, Miami, wonderful game they played on defense. They hit Fernando Mendoza pretty daggum hard. They had some penalized hits as well too. They had one player getting ejected because of the hit that he put on Fernando Mendoza's chin with the helmet there. Not a good hit, unorthodox play, undisciplined play, if I would say so myself. But they made sure that Fernando Mendoza felt it 3 times. he was sacked. He's sacked by Akeem Mesidor and Reuben Bain Jr. accounting for those 3 sacks. Mesidor with 2, Bain getting the 1. And they held Fernando Mendoza to under 200 yards passing and no touchdowns in the air. The first time, well, actually, I say the second time that's happened this season, Fernando Mendoza didn't throw a passing touchdown against Old Dominion. Didn't do it in the national championship. And that running offense led by Mark Fletcher Jr. for Miami was instant offense. Fletcher Jr. getting 112 rushing yards. He was an integral part of that offense for the Miami Hurricanes in all the games they played. When they played Texas A&M, when they played Ohio State, and when they played Ole Miss, he was a factor on that offense. They couldn't have got it done without Mark Fletcher Jr. getting 112 yards in the national championship game. Got the touchdown that gave Miami some momentum after being down 10-0 at halftime. And Malachi Tony, that young man can ball. The Frosh, the 18-year-old, going out there getting him some in that national championship game. Great job by him. I think he's going to have a promising career if he stays with the Miami Hurricanes. I think they're going to hold on to him. They should. If they don't, I hate it for him. I think he can play some exceptional football at the wide receiver spot. Now, Miami, they began the season preseason as the 10th ranked team in the nation. That was in the preseason polls. They had 2 bad losses, unfortunately. Lost to Louisville, and then they lost to SMU in the regular season. There were some people that doubted if Miami should be in the college football playoff, but they showed many people that they can play some big-time football. Getting the win against Texas A&M, of course, that 10-3 game, it was a defensive struggle the whole time. The trench battle, it was between a very defensively minded Texas A&M team, but again, the running game showing up for Miami. 24-14 win against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Got their revenge for that national championship loss back in 2002 and advancing and playing a very fast Ole Miss team, beating them 31-27. Trinidad Chambliss and those guys, they got hit by that defensive front that the Miami Hurricanes have. And then, of course, en route to the national championship, they played some very good football. They outlasted all those teams that they played. I think they have the right coach in Mario Cristobal. He's a part of that culture that is there with the Miami Hurricanes. He has that locker room, did a very, very good job with them. And he's the first coach since Larry Coker to get the Miami Hurricanes into the national championship. You know, Randy Shannon, he was the successor after Larry Coker. He couldn't get it done. Al Golden, he couldn't get it done. Mark Richt, he was supposed to be the one to get it done. He was a high-profile hire from the Georgia Bulldogs, you know, making way for Kirby Smart, who is now with the Bulldogs. He came to Miami, only lasted 3 years, 2019 to 2021. Not near enough to get things done for Mark Richt. And Manny Diaz, he was the one that came after him. Manny Diaz, unfortunately, winning the ACC with Duke. Not too happy about that right there. But Manny Diaz, very, very good coach. He handled biz. Couldn't get it done in Miami. But Mario Cristobal, it's on him right now, and I think he's the man to do it. So I've been doing research. When I was doing research for the show, you know, there were other people talking about, is the U back after finally getting to the national championship? It's been a while for the University of Miami getting back to the national championship. If you go back to the late 80s, early 90s, Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson, they laid the foundation for the U. Of course, Jimmy Johnson getting the title in 87, and then Dennis Erickson getting the titles in 89 and 91. Mario Cristobal, he was an offensive lineman on both those championship teams that Dennis Erickson had. Unfortunately, Dennis Erickson couldn't do anything for my 49ers in the 1 year that he coached. He went 2-14. But I'm going to leave that alone. He did very, very well with the U. They had very memorable matchups with Florida, Florida State, Notre Dame, Catholics versus convicts. I remember watching that 30 for 30, all the wide right games with FSU and the Governor's Cup games with Florida. Miami's had some memorable games. And I do believe Miami got totally screwed out of the national championship. They got robbed in 02. That wasn't good. That pass interference call, I didn't like it. Bad move on the side of the officiating crew for Miami. If that call would have been made, Miami might have won. They could have repeated as champions because that 02 squad was a very, very good squad. Ohio State getting their first national championship in a very long time that year. It was good for them, not so good for Miami. Larry Coker getting that championship in 01 was very vital for the U. They haven't won a championship since 91. They ended up getting one in 2001, the unclaimed championship in 2000 with all the craziness of the BCS. Let me just go ahead and just tell everybody this right here. Anybody who talks bad about the college football playoff did not live during the BCS. The BCS robbed us of great championship games, and teams that should have been champions were not champions under the BCS. There were some teams that got played out of winning national championships or going for national championships with the BCS. So everything, the college football playoff is not perfect. There may be teams that didn't deserve to be in there, and there may be teams that deserved to be in there and didn't get in there. But the BCS, horrible. I'm glad that's over with. I'm glad it's done. Don't ever bring it back. So college football playoff, glad that you're here. Imagine what a college football playoff would have done during the time of the BCS. That would be absolutely insane. But yes, and the U hasn't won a conference championship since 03. They won their conference championship in 03 with the Big East. Has some of the best NFL players of all time being drafted. Laundry list of players, Jeremy Shockey, Warren Sapp, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Antrell Roll, Sean Taylor. There are a lot of great players, and I missed a few. I'm pretty sure, The Rock went there. Warren Sapp took his spot on the defensive line. The Rock ended up being a great wrestler, one of the greatest of all time, and a whole laundry list of players. Great teams. That 01 Miami team, looking at as one of the best teams in all of college football ever. Great players. Andre Johnson put into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2024. Great players, great teams of that time. But that was the Independence/Big East U. Now, if you do recall, the U went into the ACC in 2004. I remember like it was yesterday. It was my senior year. So Miami and Vodtech going into the ACC. All the money, ACC saw dollar signs, possibilities of some great rivalries going to fruition. Of course, Miami and Florida State could be going for a conference championship. Maybe they were seeing that Miami coming off of a conference championship with the Big East in 03, coming into the ACC was big time. And of course, Louisville and Syracuse coming in. I think the Big East saw the writing on the wall, and they ended it in 2013. Big East is done. ACC getting stronger, bolstering off of some Big East teams. Now, that was 2004. That was the vision seen by the ACC. In 21 years in the ACC, excluding the national championship appearance, the U, Miami that is, has only won the Coastal Division of the ACC. In 21 years in the ACC, only won the Coastal Division. They end up representing the Coastal Division in the ACC Championship. Got the doors blown off of them by Clemson, 38-3. That's what we got out of the U in 21 years. and excluding the college football playoff, since 2013, Miami has had a bowl record of 1-9. And since the first year in the ACC, which was 2004, until now, excluding them going in 2025, Florida State and Clemson have won national championships. Clemson done it twice. They've won the national championships for the ACC. That's what the U has done. So this year, getting to the title was everything for the U. Is the U back? But the way it looks, not so much. But they are knocking on the door, I believe. I think they have the right man at the head coaching spot in Mario Cristobal. I think he gets it done. I think he's worth it. He's good for the culture for Miami. The U could be back, and I could see Mario Cristobal winning a national championship. He's got 5 more years on his contract. But with the way coaches are, and I'll be talking about that later on in the show, some coaches might be sweating, and they might be shaking in their boots after what I talk about on the next segment here. And so we got to go to our round of applause team, which has to be the Indiana Hoosiers. The Indiana Hoosiers, everybody, are national champion for the 2025-2026 season. Now, Indiana, they did get hit in the mouth. Indiana got hit. Miami, hard-hitting squad, very strong defense. They got hit in the mouth. But Indiana, they got right back up. Their offense made plays. Their offense was not on display like it was in the past few games. Omar Cooper Jr. and Charlie Becker on the receiving end making big-time clutch catches. Elijah Surratt not really making a big presence in the game. He was locked down for most of the game. Only 28 yards receiving for Elijah Surratt. But, of course, Omar Cooper Jr. and Charlie Becker picking up slack in the receiving game. Keelan Black and Roman Hembley, they ran the ball effectively. 131 yards between these two running backs. And Raleigh Nowakowski, the fullback, getting one of the rushing touchdowns in the game to give the only touchdown in the first half for the Indiana Hoosiers. No turnovers in 3 games. In this whole college football playoff, Indiana did not turn the football over. Very disciplined, mature, mistake-free football that the Indiana Hoosiers played. Over 36 minutes of time of possession, time with the football. Very, very vital in a ball control game like the national championship was. And special teams came up big when the offense couldn't score points. The kicking game came through. And, of course, Isaiah Jones with the recovery in the end zone, getting a touchdown on the special teams after the block punt. Big-time game. And the heart of Fernando Mendoza was on display in this game. Mendoza was hit. He was beat up. My man went through everything. But I tell you, that run, 4th and 4, getting those 12 yards and extending for that touchdown, that play will forever be in the minds of college football fans, Indiana fans alike. That is going to be a poster for a long, long time in college football. The heart of Fernando Mendoza getting his lone touchdown on the run. A very, very valiant effort by Fernando Mendoza. They deserved to give him that Heisman Trophy. He definitely deserved that Heisman Trophy. Played his way into a #1 overall pick. I believe Fernando Mendoza has got it in the bag when it comes down to the NFL draft. Now, Indiana was ranked 20th in the preseason. If you go back and you watch my preseason preview here on Boom Broadcasting, I talk about where Miami was ranked 10th. Will this be the year that they prove it? Is the question that I have for Miami. Will this be the year that they prove it? I meant going for the ACC championship. That's what I thought for them. And for Indiana, I said, was last year a fluke? And it definitely was not a fluke. And here's how. In the preseason rankings, Michigan, Illinois, Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State were ranked higher than Indiana. Indiana was 20th, Michigan was 14th, Illinois was 20th, Oregon was ranked 7th, Ohio State was ranked 3rd, Penn State was ranked 2nd. That's what happened. Now, they didn't play Michigan this year, but Illinois, they beat them soundly 63-10, beat Oregon 30-20 in the regular season, and then destroyed them 56-22, beat Ohio State 13-10, beat Penn State 27-24, and of course, the Ohio State was for the Big Ten championship. Penn State, they beat them in the regular season. And I'll do you one better. Alabama was ranked higher than Indiana in the preseason top 25. They were 8th ranked. Indiana beat them 38-3. Last year definitely was not a fluke. 16-0, perfect season for the Indiana Hoosiers. Greatest turnaround in all of college football. Argue with your mama. I don't care. This was the best turnaround of all time. And we're going to get into that into the next segment. We're going to take ourselves a little bit of a break. And we'll be right back with more Quick Hits. Welcome back. Once again, I implore you to subscribe to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. This week, Michael Davis has his Going to Work show out of pocket at 6 a.m. dropping at that time. He's talking about if it really was Sean McDermott's fault for the Buffalo Bills underperforming in the playoffs this year. He talks about how Josh Allen escapes blame yet again. He's also talking about Mike McDaniel being hired as the offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. Also, will Justin Herbert, is he on a time clock? Is he being looked at as his time being up in Los Angeles with Jim Harbaugh being his coach and now Mike McDaniel going in as the offensive coordinator? Is there pressure for Justin Herbert to perform better next season? And don't miss Jason Colenso, 3 from deep, 3 times a week. He's talking about Ann Edwards, about him dropping 55 this past weekend. Does that put him in the MVP spot? He's also talking about the injury to Jimmy Buckets, him being out for the season, how that affects the Golden State Warriors. And of course, he's going to have him an episode tomorrow on Saturday. He might have a special guest, so you might want to stay tuned for that one. I know you miss Chris DeLuca on the Dugout Debrief these past couple weeks. He had a little bit of business to take care of. He's doing a little something with his job, and so he had to take a little bit of an absence these past couple weeks, but he will be back to talk more baseball on the Dugout Debrief. Make sure you're still looking out for Hoops and Helmets with Carson Williams and Aaron Schneider talking college football and talking college basketball. And of course, since we're talking college football, You're With Me podcast, Smitty, here on Quick Hits. We've been talking about the national championship that just went down on Monday, talking about the Hurricanes, talking about the Hoosiers, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here with this last segment here as the standing ovation for this national championship goes to none other than the coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, Curt Daddy Cignetti. So standing ovation for the 2-time AP Coach of the Year, who now has the nickname Cignetti. Great job by the coach there, Curt Cignetti, doing it. But now here's the thing. In these past 2 years, he's coached Indiana for 2 seasons. In those 2 seasons, Indiana has went 27-2. 2-time AP Coach of the Year, and of course 2-time Big Ten Coach of the Year as well. Set school records for a winning streak. I believe it was 9 straight games. He set a record for Indiana also, too, with the most wins in a season with 11. And then he broke that record this year, of course. Coached Indiana's first Heisman Trophy winner, of course, Fernando Mendoza. Coached Indiana to their first Big Ten championship since 1967. And coached Indiana's football team to their first national championship win in all of school history. Indiana was the losingest football squad in all of college football coming into this season. Northwestern, I believe, has lost more games now, considering the fact that Indiana's only lost 2 games in 2 years. Crazy part about it is they didn't lose a game this year. Both their losses came the last season. They're the only FBS school to go 16-0 since Yale in 1894. Curt Cignetti told us all that he wins. To Google him. And of course, being the fan of sport that I am, I did just that. Curt Cignetti's first head coaching gig was with Indiana University of Pennsylvania, Cignetti's first school. He went 53-17 from 2011 to 2016, 3 NCAA playoff appearances, 2 conference titles. Sorry about that. 2 conference titles in his time from 2011 to 2016. Do you know the record of IUP the year before Curt Cignetti took the helm as the head coach? 4-10. Curt Cignetti, 53-17 when he left as the head coach of IUP. He went to Elon University from 2017 to 2018. That's Sean Lucas's alma mater there. Host of It Stinks and Wrestling of Destiny podcast. Make sure you see him on Saturdays and on Thursdays. In the one season at Elon, the Phoenix, they were 4-20 previously before Curt Cignetti came. They went to the NCAA playoffs for the very first time since 2009, and Curt Cignetti was the CAA Coach of the Year in his first year at Elon. The next season, after going to JMU, James Madison University, the following year he went there. Kind of funny, he beat that squad in 2018 in an upset win, 27-24. In that year, he goes and coaches the school that he beat. Got them to a national championship. Unfortunately, they fell short of winning that championship game. Curt Cignetti spent from 2018 to 2023. He had a 52-9 record, 3 conference titles, helped usher in JMU into the Sun Belt Division, into the Sun Belt Conference, getting them into FBS play. Curt Cignetti was around for that. 52-9 as JMU head coach. And of course, he goes to Indiana, and in 2 seasons, he does what we talked about in the beginning of this segment. Curt Cignetti has done more in less time as a head coach. He's putting some of these coaches in very sticky situations in a season where we've seen head coaches get fired, where teams just gave the money to the coaches and told them to get out, take the money and run. Steve Miller Band, shout out to them. Brian Kelly, James Franklin, those coaches going, they just said, hey, we're going to buy your contract out, get out. You ain't doing it for us, get out. Curt Cignetti putting some pressure on some of these guys. Now look at Mario Cristobal. In 5 years, finally getting to a national championship in his 5th year, coming up short. Curt Cignetti, He's going to make it hard for some of these coaches nowadays with what he's done in the small amount of time. Now, which leads me to this last part I want to end with. There are a lot of people out there. You know, what Curt Cignetti has done is incredible. In 2 years with a big-time team in a big-time conference in the Big Ten. He talked about Michigan and Ohio State sucked. I love that. I love what Curt Cignetti did. You know, the smug face, the hardly ever smiling. You know, I looked at those and I read those articles there. You know, Curt Cignetti, he's definitely a leader. But there's a lot of people out there that's wanting to discredit what he's done, saying he's playing a little bit of Moneyball with these players, taking advantage of the transfer portal, bringing guys with him from JMU over to Indiana. He's talking about that. They're saying that he's playing Moneyball. Now, I find it kind of odd that when Indiana and Curt Cignetti is doing this, it's called Moneyball. But when Bama, Ohio State, Miami, Georgia, and any of those other Power 5 schools do it, it's called business as usual. Ain't that kind of odd? Indiana, small school. Not a small school, but a small school when it comes down to the Big Ten. One of those stepping stone schools. Because, of course, in the Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State, they won your last national championships. This is the third national championship the Big Ten has won, and Indiana is that squad that won it, and no one saw it. Some people saw it, but not everyone. So what Curt Cignetti did was incredible, regardless of NIL, transfer portal, any of that done in 2 years. What Curt Cignetti has done is incredible. He's won everywhere he's went. He may not have won on the caliber that other people thought he did, but he's won everywhere he's went as a head coach. IUP, Elon, JMU, Indiana, he's won. Regardless of what's being said. Some of these coaches right here shaking in their boots with the Curt Cignetti walking into the room. But they want to call it Moneyball because he had a squad that was older than some. Miami's squad was older than Indiana's. A lot of people want to forget that. Curt Cignetti playing Moneyball. Gone are the days of the 18-year-old being a phenom in college football or a 19-year-old being a phenom. Yeah, I understand that. College football, they're in disarray right now. With the transfer portal, with NIL, they're in disarray right now. You got players suing the NCAA, suing schools about having a 6th year, having a 7th year, trying to go into college football, getting that money, of course. And it needs to be fixed. College football has got a mess on their hands. They really do. Since COVID, college football and college sports, period, have a mess on their hands. The NCAA has got to get a firm grip on this. But in football, what needs to be done, if you want to stop Moneyball and all of that, get a minor league. The NFL has to get a minor league. These players that are going for 5th and 6th years, put them in a minor league. The XFL, no, I'm sorry, the UFL, sorry about that. I watched the UFL, and that was my fault. The UFL, the NFL's got to do something where the UFL is a part of it and they have a minor league squad or minor league squads out there feed into these NFL teams. These players, let them play football, sure. But get them out of college, put them in there so they can get ready for the pro ranks because they talk about quarterbacks not being developed for the pro game. They talk about that. What a good way to develop them. Put them in the UFL. Have them feed in the teams for your pro teams. 32 teams out there. Get you some teams that'll feed into the pro leagues. Get them there. The UFL begins on the 27th of March. What a good way to segue into that. I might be talking a little bit of UFL. I like watching the UFL. Pretty cool stuff. But it'd be pretty cool to see some of these players playing in the UFL. Why not? You want to get rid of the Moneyball and these guys getting developed like the colleges, just a second pros? Put them in minor leagues and get them developed for the pro game. Just a thought. Put that in your minds, everybody. With that being said, that is this episode of Quick Hits here. Make sure you subscribe to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. Make sure you engage in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe on the socials. I'll be seeing you next week. May come with a Tuesday show, but I'm pretty sure that I'll be coming with a Friday show. Make sure that you watch 3 from Deep on Saturday. Watch all the other content here on Quick Hits. Watch Out of Pocket. Watch 3 from Deep. Watch It Stinks. Watch the Dugout Debrief. The Nightcap. Wrestling of Destiny. Make sure you watch all of that. Until next week, I'm Shannon Smith, and this is Quick Hits.
Now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's strictly